Hi, and welcome to the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. I'm Christina, qualified nutritionist, food coach, and mum of two. If you're a busy mum who wants straightforward, no-nonsense weight loss advice without all the complicated science talk, or you just want to learn more about health and nutrition in a way that's easy to understand, then you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. I'm Christina. If you're new here, welcome. If this is your first episode you've listened to. Something happened to me recently on my socials that I was not expecting. I posted a reel, and if you saw it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it was just about breastfeeding and the advice that you get when you do breastfeed your baby about weight loss. People just say, just breastfeed and the weight will fall off. I made this reel because, well, I found it a bit funny, but it's also such a common piece of advice that just isn't true for everyone. Nobody tells you that breastfeeding can make you so hungry and thirsty, and that you're pretty much eating an extra meal plus more every day. And then you wonder why the weight isn't falling off because you've heard that breastfeeding does make the weight fall off. Well, that reel went crazy. It was actually insane, especially for me. I don't usually get over 1 million views on a reel. But I also got a lot of comments that I wasn't prepared for. There were mums all over the world sharing their own experiences, which I really loved reading. And what was interesting was just how different everyone's story was. Some women said, yes, breastfeeding absolutely helped them lose weight without even trying. It did just fall off. Others said they held on to every single bit of it until they stopped breastfeeding. Some lost weight straight away and then it ended up coming back. A lot of women agreed that yes, they were definitely starving all the time and just wanted to eat everything. But there were also a few who had no appetite at all and struggled to eat. And then there were some that said didn't matter what they did or what they ate, nothing changed for them. And reading all those comments, I kept thinking, this is exactly why, the one size fits all advice around postpartum weight loss is really unhelpful, because your body after having a baby is not the same as your friend's body. It's not even the same as your own body from a previous pregnancy. So today's episode is about that. It's a bit of a part 2 to the first postpartum episode that I did. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and have a listen. It's episode 3. I'll put a link in the show notes if you wanted to go back to that one. So I'm going to be talking about why your body does what it does after a baby, what's actually happening beneath the surface, and what you can do to support your body through it without restricting yourself, without pressure, and without comparing what you're going through to anyone else's. So let's get into it. Now, I made that reel firstly because I can relate to it. I'm still breastfeeding at the moment, and so many people said the same thing to me, but it didn't really happen like that for me. The weight didn't just disappear without any effort at all. I had to use the extra calories I was burning to my advantage. So yes, it definitely helps when you're breastfeeding to lose weight for some people. Again, not for everyone, but I still had to do the work to make sure I was eating the right things and enough of the right things. After my first baby was born, I was a bit of a mess. I had severe preeclampsia at 39 weeks. It kicked in just after I had my 39-week check, but I didn't realize that's what it was. And when I say severe, I mean, it got to the point where I couldn't dress myself. By the time I got to the hospital, because obviously there was something wrong, I was throwing up. I ended up going blind. I didn't know what year it was. It was really bad. So obviously I had to have an emergency C-section, and it took a few days to get my normal vision back. And I also had to take blood pressure medication for a couple of weeks until it stabilized. And so all of that, it really messed with my supply. I tried everything to boost it because all I wanted to do was exclusively breastfeed. I tried all of old wives' tales plus drugs, but nothing worked. So I gave up on that dream and I ended up mixed feeding. So because I wasn't really producing much, I didn't experience crazy hunger that people say you're meant to get, not that time around. I did eat a lot though while I was trying to help boost my supply, but it didn't help. My second was a different story. My birth wasn't straightforward, but it was much less dramatic than the first, and I did end up having a VBAC, which I was very happy about. I also didn't have any supply issues and was able to exclusively breastfeed that time around. And this time I was hungry And even now, after a year, I still get so thirsty all the time. My baby is obsessed. So he's always draining me. So I'm always so thirsty. And I ate a lot for the first few months, but then I decided to start being smart about what I was eating and how I was looking after myself. In episode 3, I outlined a suggested approach to weight loss postpartum, and that's pretty much what I did. At the same time, I decided to document a lot of the meals I had on repeat, which helped me lose weight. And this ended up turning into my ultimate weight loss guide, which I'll also put a link in the notes if you want to check that out. I didn't create the guide specifically for postpartum women. The daily calories in the guide meal plan may be too low for a lot of breastfeeding mums, but it doesn't mean it can't be a baseline for you to use and just add extra food if you need it. So I was eating a lot of the meals in this guide, plus just adding extra snacks on top of the snacks it recommends as well. So this approach did work for me. The weight did start coming off while I was eating meals from this guide, and I was trying to exercise where possible as well. So I did go back to gym 9 weeks postpartum after my second baby. I was a lot more confident the second time around, and I've been aiming for at least 3 days a week since then. Some weeks I may not do any, depending on how the kids are, but aiming for 3. Before I started this approach, I only really lost the initial baby's out weight, but nothing else because I was eating everything in sight without giving it a second thought. It can be tricky when you're breastfeeding because you do need to be in a deficit to lose weight. But if you're too far in a deficit, it can affect your supply, which you want to avoid. But I managed to find the sweet spot. And the trick is to eat a lot of high volume, nutrient dense foods. Now, I wanted to share a bit about my story because I think when we hear other people's real, unfiltered stories, not the stories, I snap back in 6 weeks stories, it can make our own goals feel a lot more achievable. I'm just a regular person with a regular body doing my best to treat it well so it treats me well and it changes the way I want it to. And if I can do it, then there's no reason that anyone else can't do it as well. The response to that reel told me that so many of you weren't experiencing things the way you imagined or the way you hoped it would when it came to food and postpartum weight loss. But just because it's not what you expected doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you at all or anything wrong with your experience. Our bodies all respond so differently. And I wanted to touch on why there's such a huge range in how women experience their bodies after having a baby. There are a few key things at play. So genetics is one. Your body has, I guess, a blueprint that it's working from. Also, previous pregnancies matter. How your labor and birth went matters. Whether you're breastfeeding, your sleep or lack of it, that definitely matters. Your stress levels matter. Your thyroid as well. And of course, the hormones your body produces in the months after birth are unique to you. So no two postpartum bodies are ever going to be the same. But here's something I want you to understand. Even though your experience is individual, the underlying hormonal processes are universal. So the same thing is happening for everyone. The same hormones are in play for all the women out there who've given birth. It's just how your body responds to them and how your lifestyle interacts with them. That's what creates the variation. I do talk about postpartum hormones in episode 3, but I'll do a recap here as well. So during pregnancy, your estrogen and progesterone levels are incredibly high. They're supporting the pregnancy, helping your body grow and change, and doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Then you have the baby, and they basically fall off a cliff almost immediately. It's one of the most dramatic hormonal shifts the human body can experience in a short period of time. This drop is completely normal and necessary, but it affects everything. It affects your mood, your energy, your sleep quality, your metabolism, and yes, your weight as well. So low estrogen in particular can make it harder for your body to maintain muscle mass, which affects how many calories you burn at rest. It also influences where your body stores fat. And it takes time for these levels to stabilize, especially if you're breastfeeding, which I'll come back to. Then there's prolactin. So if you're breastfeeding, your body is producing prolactin, which is the hormone that drives milk production. And prolactin's really interesting because it does a few things simultaneously that can feel contradictory from a weight loss perspective. On one hand, producing milk burns calories, somewhere between 300 to 500 extra per day, depending on how much milk you're making. So in theory, yes, breastfeeding does increase your energy expenditure, And this is what my reel was about, prolactin also increases hunger a lot. So it's signaling to your brain that you need more food to keep the milk supply going. Your appetite ramps up to match or even sometimes exceed the extra calories that are being burned. And on top of that, high prolactin levels keep estrogen low, which means your body may actually hold onto fat stores, particularly around hips and thighs. And it holds this as a kind of energy reserve for breastfeeding. It's a protective mechanism. Your body's prioritizing the baby's nutrition over your weight loss goals. Unfortunately, our bodies are pretty impressive when you think about it, even if it's so frustrating to live in at the time when you just want the weight to go away and feel like yourself again. It's doing this to look after your baby, basically. This is why some women lose weight really easily while breastfeeding and others doesn't move at all. It comes down to how strongly your body responds to prolactin, how much your appetite increases, and whether your body leans into that fat storage response or not. When the whole hunger thing was mentioned to me after my first baby, other mums would be asking, if I was really hungry. And I didn't know what that hunger should feel like. So I would just say, yeah, I'm starving, but I really wasn't that hungry. But second time round, I understand a lot better though. Some days early on, I just couldn't get enough in. Like I'd have a whole meal and then I'd just be looking for food instantly. I just never really felt satisfied. Next up is cortisol. This one is one that nobody really connects to postpartum weight loss, but it does need to be talked about. So cortisol is your stress hormone. It's not inherently bad. It's a normal functional part of how your body manages stress and regulates energy. But when it stays elevated for a long time, it starts to cause problems. So as a new mother, you're sleep deprived, you're under constant demand, your nervous system is on alert around the clock, and you're probably running on caffeine and just love at this stage, very little else. And all of that, it elevates your cortisol. And chronically high cortisol tells your body to hold on to fat, especially visceral fat around your middle. It affects insulin sensitivity, meaning your body doesn't manage blood sugar as efficiently, which can lead to more cravings, more energy crashes, and more hunger. And it makes it harder to lose weight, even when you're trying to do everything right. It can still be working against you. So if you've been doing all the things and still not seeing movement, please consider that your body might be under genuine physiological stress and you might need to try and address some of that stress you're under instead of working harder at the gym. Then there's the thyroid, which is often overlooked. About 5 to 10% of women develop what's called postpartum thyroiditis in the year after birth. That's inflammation of the thyroid that can cause it to swing between overactive and underactive. An underactive thyroid slows your metabolism, causes fatigue, it makes it harder to lose weight, and can contribute to low mood and brain fog. And an overactive thyroid does the opposite. You end up experiencing rapid weight loss, racing heart, anxiety, before it then settles into an underactive phase. So many women end up going through this without even knowing it because the symptoms can look a lot like normal new parent exhaustion. So if you feel like something's off with your energy, or your weight, your mood, your temperature regulation, anything like that, it's worth getting your thyroid checked. This is particularly important because thyroid issues can be treated and getting that support can make a real difference to how you're feeling. Then there's insulin, which is the last piece of the puzzle I want to mention. Pregnancy can affect insulin sensitivity, and that doesn't always reset immediately after birth. When insulin sensitivity is disrupted, your body has a harder time managing blood sugar. And this can mean bigger energy spikes and crashes after meals. It can also mean more cravings, especially for refined carbs. And there's a tendency for your body to store more of what you eat as fat rather than burning it for energy. Sleep deprivation makes this worse. Chronic stress makes this worse. A diet high in ultra-processed foods makes this worse. But the good news is that this is one of the areas where your food choices can have a fairly direct positive impact. And get into that shortly. But I want to take a break here for a second because this has been a lot of information and I want to make sure that it all ties back to something useful for you. So the point of understanding all of this isn't to give you more things to worry about. It's to help you see that there's absolutely nothing wrong with your body. It's doing a very complicated job. You're recovering from pregnancy and birth, potentially feeding another human, you're managing sleep deprivation and trying to regulate a completely new hormonal environment. all at the same time. And weight loss being hard during this time, it makes complete sense. So I hope understanding what your hormones are doing will help you go a little easier on yourself, because if you're struggling to lose weight, it may just be that your body needs time to regulate and process everything that has happened and is still happening. Okay, now what do we do with all of this? Because understanding your hormones is one thing, but I want to give you something practical too. And before I do, I just want to say that the goal in the early postpartum period is not rapid weight loss. That is not what we're trying to achieve. The goal is supporting your body so that weight loss can happen sustainably later when your body is in a better position to do it. If you're still in the thick of the newborn stage, this is not the time to be in a deficit or to pressure yourself. But there are things you can do at any stage postpartum to work with your hormones rather than against them. So the first one is to prioritize protein. Protein is your best friend here. It's not just for weight loss reasons. Getting enough protein in helps to stabilize blood sugar, which directly impacts insulin sensitivity and cortisol. So it supports muscle mass as well, which keeps your metabolism functioning. It helps with satiety, so you're not riding a hunger roller coaster all day. And it gives your body the building blocks it needs to repair and recover. So the target here is to aim for 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So that's higher than most people eat by default. The easiest way to approach it is to build every meal around a protein source first. So eggs, chicken, fish, Greek yogurt, legumes, tofu, and then build the rest of the meal around that. I know it can be hard to get balanced meals with enough protein in all day, every day, but don't be scared to take advantage of protein powder. Find a good one that you like and use it to make smoothies loaded with heaps of fruit and veg. Sometimes the hardest meal for me is lunch. If I haven't prepped anything and I'm really not organized that week, the easiest thing is to just throw a smoothie together, get all your nutrients into a glass. They don't just have to be for breakfast. Or if you feel like having cereal for breakfast, which doesn't usually have much protein in it, just have a shake on the side. Maybe not a fully loaded one if you've just had cereal, but even just a scoop of protein with water or blended with a handful of berries will do the trick. It's also important to eat enough, especially if you're breastfeeding. This feels counterintuitive when you're trying to lose weight, but under eating in the postpartum stage, especially while breastfeeding, is going to end up backfiring. When your body doesn't have enough fuel, your cortisol rises and milk supply can be affected. And on top of that, your energy is going to crash and your body becomes even more protective of its fat stores. So it's going to hold on even tighter. The research on breastfeeding women suggests that going below about 1,800 calories can start to impact milk supply and recovery. And for most women, that means eating more than you think you should. And that can feel really uncomfortable when diet culture has spent years telling you to eat less. If you're not breastfeeding, a small, moderate deficit is generally fine once your body has had time to recover or when you feel ready. There's no strict timeline for this. So you've got to work with when you're ready. But the deficit doesn't need to be traumatic. Small and sustainable will always beat aggressive and short-lived deficits. You also need to support your sleep. So even when it's broken, I know sleep more is the most unhelpful piece of advice you can give a new mum, and sometimes even not new mums. My youngest just turned 1 recently and he still hasn't slept through the night, which is very frustrating, but I know it's not going to be forever. But what I mean by this is to protect the sleep you do get. If your partner or support person can take them, feed them, let them. If you can sleep when the baby sleeps, even some of the time, try to do that. Even short sleep windows matter. And the reason this is in here is that sleep deprivation is one of the most significant drivers of elevated cortisol and disrupted insulin sensitivity. Even 1 or 2 hours of total sleep per day can make a big difference to how your body handles food and stress. This ties back to the insulin piece, to meals that are built around protein, fiber, and healthy fats rather than refined carbs and sugar on their own create a slower, more stable rise and fall in blood sugar. So this reduces cortisol spikes, it reduces cravings, it reduces the fat storage signal, and helps your energy stay more even throughout the day. So you don't need to cut out carbs. You just need to pair them with something that slows their absorption. So a piece of toast with eggs is very different to a piece of toast on its own. A bowl of oats with protein powder and yogurt is very different to just oats with honey and fruit juice. The other thing is that you need to be realistic about the timeline. Some women lose their pregnancy weight by 6 months. Some take 12 to 18 months. Some might take even longer. And some find that their body settles at a slightly different place than before. And all of these are normal scenarios. Your body just grew and birthed a human being. So that's not something you just bounce back from in a few weeks, no matter what social media might suggest. And the pressure to do so is really harmful, not just emotionally, but physiologically. Stress and self criticism elevate cortisol, and cortisol, as we now know, makes weight loss harder. So, giving yourself some grace is not giving up. It's actually the most strategic thing you can do. So, as you can see, your postpartum hormones are really complicated. They're dynamic, they're highly individual, and they have a lot of influence on how your body holds and releases weight. Estrogen and progesterone drop dramatically after birth. Prolactin supports breastfeeding, but also increases hunger and can hold onto fat. And cortisol rises with stress and sleep deprivation and makes fat loss harder. Then there's a thyroid that can become dysregulated without you even knowing. And insulin sensitivity can be disrupted in ways that affect your hunger, your energy, and fat storage. All of these things, you don't really have any control over them, but none of it's permanent. And the things that are going to help are eating enough protein, not going too far in a deficit, especially while breastfeeding, protecting your sleep where you can, keeping your blood sugar stable, and being genuinely patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. And remember that you're in one of the most demanding physiological seasons of your life. So if things aren't happening like you want them to, just remind yourself that this phase will be over before you know it. And you'll have the rest of your life to focus on your body. But at this point, make sure your baby comes first. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend who might need the information as well. And I would really appreciate a review. It helps me reach more people just like you. And also make sure you follow me on Instagram or Facebook at The Simple Health Method. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.